Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So you may or may not be aware that there is a lot of parenting advice out there, and there are a lot of things that parents will be like, oh my god, this thing is incredible, this thing really worked for us, like this is amazing. And then you will be like, nope, not that, did not work for us. And so in this video, what I want to do is go through a lot of things that I have seen that other parents absolutely swear by when it comes to their babies and their children, and whether or not they are things that Dan and I have done and if they worked for us. So I've got a few of my own that I've definitely seen a lot of other parents talking about, and then I also asked the parents on my Patreon what some of the things that they swear by are, and so we're going to dive into those as well. If you weren't aware, we have a whole Discord server for my patrons called the Common Room, and if you don't know what Discord is, it's essentially like a really big chat room, but there's lots of different specific channels, so depending on what topic you want to talk about, then you can go to those specific channels. And we have a whole channel in there called Kids Table, which is where we chat about pregnancy and parenting and babies and kids and all of that stuff. And it is a very lovely, welcoming place. I have found it very useful and reassuring and lovely to like have that group of other parents there. There are also other parents in there who are like at the same stage as me. Like our babies were born like a week or a few weeks apart, which is just mind-blowing to me. And then there's lots of others who've got like older kids as well, and we're all like, help, what do we do about this thing? It's excellent. I love it. So those are some of the folks that I asked about the things that they swear by. But first, some of the more general things that I've seen various parents talking about online, but then also just like other parents that I know in real life. Oh my god, real life parent friends, amazing. I mean, that's one thing actually that I'll say that I swear by, is having in-person parent friends, like a network of also new parents at the same stage as you. That is one thing that I'll swear by as being incredibly helpful. First up on this list is co-sleeping / bed sharing. Now, I first encountered this as a thing that kind of A, existed, and then also B, was like kind of controversial with my friend Melanie, who has been bed sharing with her toddler since, I don't know, maybe he was like a few months old, I think, when they started. And I'm not going to go into all of the pros and cons and debate around bed sharing here. I'm just going to talk about my personal experience, but this is actually something that, yes, has absolutely worked for us. I was very reluctant at the beginning. Like, we have one of those next to me cribs, and we even like forked out a lot of money and sized up and got a bigger one as Rowan grew out of the smaller one that we had. But essentially that 4-month sleep regression hit, and Rowan wasn't even a good sleeper to begin with, and so then the regression was just unbearable. Pre-regression, we would bed share like after his wake ups post like 5 a.m. because he usually like wouldn't go back down in his cot after that. So we would do like a bit of early morning bed sharing, which when he was really, really tiny was like the most I could emotionally handle. But now we pretty much exclusively bed share. At some point I would like to get him back in the next to me. Like, I'm definitely not ready for him to be in like a separate room. We also just don't have the space for him to be in a different room. But for now, the bed sharing is working really, really well. And at the time of recording this, we have had 6 really good nights in a row. So I'm just very much enjoying this phase. And by a good night, for us, that means he's waking up 2 or 3 times in the night to feed instead of his previous like 5 or 6. Which was killing me. But kind of connected to this thing, another thing that I see a lot of parents absolutely raving about is side lying breastfeeding. This took us a while to nail. I feel like when he was small and it would be a case of like actually like propping him up on his side, it was really, really tricky. But now he's bigger, he likes to sleep on his side anyway, and so he's just sturdier, more robust baby. Side-lying breastfeeding is incredible. So even for those like really, really rough nights where we would be bed sharing and he'd be waking up like 5 or 6 times in the night, I would be able to like feed him and get him back down without moving. I would still be able to like close my eyes. I'll be able to rest. I would usually like fall back asleep before he was done anyway, and then I would wake up like an hour later when he's like woken up again for his next feed. So even though I was still waking up a lot, being able to bed share and side lie breastfeed just made nights so much more restful rather than having to sit up with him, hold him in my lap, force myself to stay awake, just really try and not fall asleep, and then try and put him back down again. We have had a few nights of bed sharing when he hasn't let me side feed him, but that's usually when he has a cold, and so it's just a bit more difficult for him, and it's brutal. But one of the excellent things about breastfeeding with big boobs and the side feeding is that I don't have to swap sides. I can feed him with both boobs lying on the same side, just pop, pop, pop in the mouth. Oh, excellent. Excellent. I love it. I will say our bed is a king, and that is too small. Rowan takes up so much room. There have been a few times where Dan has ended up having to sleep on the floor because Rowan is just sprawled all across my side of the bed, and so then I'm on Dan's side of the bed. We recently went away, and the bed that was in our room, the mattress was a super king, I believe, because it was definitely bigger than our one at home, and that was perfect. That was an excellent size. So, hopefully when we move, we will get a big, big mattress. Loads and loads of parents swear by baby wearing. So this is carriers and slings and having the baby attached to you that way, so you can still go about and do stuff, and then also they can nap in the sling. And also, especially in that 4th trimester, that first 3 months after they're born, they just want to be close to you. I mean, even after that, they still just want to be close to you. I've had an up and down relationship with baby wearing. Dan's has been a lot more straightforward. He's used the one fabric sling that we have, and it's worked really well for him and Rowan from birth to now. And now he's even able to have Rowan facing out in it, and he absolutely loves that, and he will still sleep in the sling on Dan as well. It's just so good, so easy, especially because Dan can't breastfeed him. It's just a nice way for him and Dan to bond, and also for Dan to be able to get Rowan down for a nap without feeding. So I think baby wearing, especially having the sling, is something that Dan would swear by. For me, had a complicated relationship with that sling. I just have a much shorter body, and Rowan was a very big baby, and I couldn't quite figure it out. But once Rowan got a bit bigger, we have this second-hand baby carrier, but it's one of those ones that the baby needs to be a good 4 months old before you can get them into it. But since Rowan has been big enough for that baby carrier, I've been having an excellent time, and I much prefer the baby carrier to a sling. I just find it much quicker to get on and off instead of faffing around with getting the whole thing wrapped around me in the proper way. So Dan is a sling guy, I'm a baby carrier gal. I'm really excited to try at some point getting him on my back. The carrier that I have, because it's an older version, it's not one where you can make the baby facing outwards, but I do think it's one where I can have him on my back. So that's next stage. Next up, reusable nappies. I watched so many videos about reusable nappies before Rowan was born, different reviews of different ones, people's different routines and tips and tricks with reusables. I went so deep into it, got way too overwhelmed by it all, and in the end we just put on our gift registry list a starter pack from Bambino Mio, which our friends got us. So we had a nappy bin, a bunch of nappy liners, and a bunch of reusable nappies. And as soon as Rowan's umbilical cord was off, we were using them, and we really loved them. We were still too scared to use them out and about, but at home we were using them loads, and we loved them so much that we then bought more. And then they started leaking. And so we were what's going on? Is it just because his body's changing and he's growing, and something just wasn't working? And so we kind of just put them away in a drawer. But more recently, we think it's gotten better. We've had to kind of up the size for him, with the little poppers, make it bigger. We've realized that a lot of the times when it was leaking, it's because the nappy liner has been poking out. So any liquid that gets in the nappy liner, it then seeps outwards. So we've been very vigilant about keeping the nappy liner inside, and that has definitely helped. But we're still not really using them out and about, and we are always out with Rowan at least once a day. He goes to his childminder 4 days a week. So they are, for the most part, sitting there in a drawer, and it does feel really wasteful, the amount of disposable nappies that we get through, considering we have a whole drawer full of these reusables. But we just haven't been able to figure out getting into a routine with them. I have just the most incredible and like practical like little buggy organizer thing that's on the back of the buggy, but it's a very small one, so it only really fits disposables in it. It would not fit reusables in it. I do have a nappy changing backpack, but I just love not having to like carry all that much when I'm out and about. I like have my little handbag, have that buggy organizer, like done. When I used to have the proper nappy changing backpack on the back of the buggy, our buggy is so small that the backpack would actually like weigh it down, and we had a few instances of like when a bus is turning, like it going whoop, and no thank you. No thank you. It's a tricky one because it's about figuring out how it fits into your routine in terms of just like actually doing the nappy changes, but actually also storing and transporting all of the nappies as well in whatever system and routine you have going. And like, you know, like once you're in your routine and once you're like, yes, this is working, then you're like, don't want to change it, don't want to mess anything up. So that's where I feel like I'm currently at with the reusables, even though I do want to get better at using them and using them more, especially on weekends. Weekends is like the time to experiment, I feel, when we've got like more flexibility and more time. Next up is having a bedtime routine. This is another one that I avoided for so long because I don't know, anytime I see online people like posting their routines with their babies, it just makes me anxious. Wake up at this time, then feed at this time, and then down for a nap at this time, and then wake up and play at this time, and then another feed at this time. And I'm just like, how is that even possible? Like, I don't understand how you can even like have a routine like that. Anyway, as a super organized and routine heavy person for myself, I feel like I've just gone like entirely the other way with having a baby, which is very interesting to me because I bet there are some people out there who are like super into their routines when it comes to having babies. Maybe having the whole routine thing is easier once, you know, they're older children. But for now, daytime routine, no. And so I was also very reluctant to have any kind of nighttime routine because I was just like, there is no routine, it is just pure chaos. We just feed him at some point in the evening and maybe that'll be a nap. Maybe that'll be his first sleep of the night. And you know, he would just like fall asleep feeding on me on the sofa whilst we were watching TV, and then that would be his night sleep. And then around 4 months, things just kind of started to shift. We were just thinking, oh, it would be nice to have evenings to ourselves, or you know, maybe we should like try and get Rowan down to go to sleep in the crib for his first sleep of the night instead of on us, you know, whilst we're like trying to have an evening or whatever. And so we bought a baby monitor and we attempted a nighttime routine and we haven't looked back. Like, it's just so ridiculous how much we'd been resisting it, and then the moment we started we were like, okay, yep, I get it. And it's just so simple. It's like as soon as we think he's starting to get tired in the evenings, as soon as he gets a bit grouchy and he's like done playing or whatever, it's like, right, bath, book, boob, bed, done. And you know, it's not perfect every time. Sometimes we'll get to boob and he'll just like still be wide awake and we're like, okay, I guess like we're going back to play again, and then like an hour later he'll be like, okay, and then he'll like go straight back down. But in general, it's been really amazing. We've been able to have evenings to ourselves. Like, he absolutely loves bath time, goes mad for it. His favorite part, I think, of the whole bath time routine is just being on his changing mat on the bathroom floor and playing with his towel that's like hanging from the towel rack above him. He's obsessed. The timings of bedtime change every day. It's definitely not like a strict thing. It entirely depends on when his last nap was, but ultimately having a bedtime routine has worked really well for us, although it still isn't something that I would want to do before like 4 months anyway. Who knows? And then next up is white noise. So many of my mum friends and so many people talk about this online in terms of helping the baby sleep, of like putting on white noise. Dan and I sometimes do this, we sometimes don't. We tend to like go for it when we're really struggling. If Rowan won't go down and he's like tricky to settle, then we're like, let's try some white noise. But actually I don't think he really responds to it. It's hard to tell. Like, he goes down fine without it. He'll sleep through the night, and by sleep through the night, he will still wake up a lot, but he will sleep without it. And we only tend to put it on when we're really desperate, and it's hard to say if it actually does anything. Who knows? But a lot of other parents swear by it, but not for us. Okay, next up is some of the specific things that my patrons sent in. We have reusable wipes for face and hands as well as bottom. Reusable wipes was something that I came across when I was doing my like reusable nappies research, but actually I've never looked into these. Obviously we get through so many wipes and it's so painful with the disposable nappies and the disposable wipes, but maybe this is going to be the kick up the arse to look into getting some reusable wipes. The really tricky thing with all of the reusables is washing them. Like the amount of washes we put on. And because Dan works full time and I work part-time, it's really tricky. Like I imagine if I was parenting Rowan full-time, maybe I would have more opportunities to put more washes on because I'd be home more. I don't know. Right, star wrap. Never heard of this. Much easier than trying to put baby's limbs into coats/snowsuit and doesn't fall off like a blanket. Okay, I mean, it's getting colder now, so let's look up a star wrap. What is a star wrap? Oh, they're so cute. Okay. Oh my God, these little babies. Okay, I can see how this is easier than trying to get them into like a pram suit. Thanks for the recommendation. May have to look into this. Gonna look up some star wraps on Vinted later. Swaddle bags for when they are tiny. We attempted like one of those swaddle sleep suits with Rowan when we were having a really bad night with him. I don't really think it did anything. We never swaddled Rowan from birth. Maybe we should have. Maybe that's something that we would do if we were going to have another baby. But basically, we tried to swaddle him because it was during this phase where he would just slam his legs down, just like bam, bam, bam at night. And even if he was asleep, like I couldn't get to sleep with him just like flailing his limbs around. So we're like, what if we just put him in like a straitjacket? Just like, no movement. But that didn't really work because then he was frustrated because he couldn't move any of his limbs. Who knows? We still have them. Maybe they'll work for another baby, but they definitely didn't work with Rowan. Introducing a bottle at the same time as breastfeeding. If you want/need your partner or someone else to help with feeds, health visitors will tell you to wait 6 weeks to introduce a bottle, but next time I'll be doing the exact same and have a bottle a couple of days after they're born. Yes, so this isn't something that I ever thought about intentionally, but Rowan had bottles with formula for top-ups when, he was just like a day or two old because we were struggling with feeds when we were in the hospital. And I think I feel the same because I didn't go in with a strategy of introducing bottles, even though I knew that from about 3 months, I would need him to be taking a bottle because I was going to be returning to work and he was going to be going into childcare. But we were just going to be like, well, we'll just offer him a bottle and hope for the best. But obviously a lot of babies just like will not take a bottle. And so I'm really glad that accidentally we were in a situation where we had introduced a bottle from birth essentially. And then even when we didn't need to do the top-ups anymore, we were still giving him a bottle and I was pumping like maybe like once a week or something just to kind of like keep the memory there. I don't know, keep the practice there. But he's never had an issue with bottles. Is that just because that was always going to be the case? Or is it because we introduced a bottle really early? I don't know, but it is definitely something that I would want to do next time, just in case. Next to me crib. Gutted we didn't get the bigger one that they can stay in for much longer. Made it easier to get baby when I had stitches and felt like co-sleeping without the anxiety I first felt over it. Yes, hard agree. Absolutely loved our little next to me that we had in those early days because way too anxious to do any like bed sharing, but could still like co-sleep with him next to me but in his own space. I am really glad, even though Rowan has maybe slept in his bigger next to me crib for like a few weeks, I'm still really glad that we have it and we have the option. It is now still really useful because of the way it is attached to our bed. It is essentially the thing that is stopping Rowan from falling out of the bed. So we haven't had to like rearrange our whole bedroom with putting a mattress on the floor and like baby proofing the floor and the space and stuff because this next to me crib, this massive thing is like stopping him from falling out of the bed. So, it's useful in that way. Baby sleeping bags, blankets are just so faffy and get kicked off. We have only really used baby sleeping bags once or twice, but that is because it's mostly been really warm and we live in a new build flat, and so he hasn't needed any extra layers at night. But now that it's getting colder and we've also spent a few nights away in colder places, we do love a good baby sleeping bag. I think also just because of the amount he like moves around and he like often sleeps on his side or sleeps on his front now, the idea of having a blanket on him, like who knows where that blanket is gonna end up, whereas like you put him in a baby sleeping bag and he'll stay in that baby sleeping bag. Getting everything I can second hand, hard agree. Yes, love me some secondhand baby clothes and things. Baby massage. We haven't been able to do a proper baby massage course because of just timings and me working and everything, but our local children's centre did this like parenting course, and one of the weeks was like a taster baby massage session. However, Rowan was asleep for most of it, and they were like, yeah, no, don't massage him. If he's asleep, just let him sleep. So I did some practicing on a very creepy baby doll, but haven't been able to do baby massage. I don't know if he's like too old now. I don't know. But I wish that's something that we could have done. Baby sensory classes. So again, haven't been able to do many of these just because of timings with work and stuff. I went to one when he was like 8 weeks old because I was desperate to get out of the house, and it was definitely more for me than it was for him. But I can so tell that he is now at that age where he would absolutely go mad for a baby sensory class, and I really want to take him to some, but I just can't find any that are on when I'm not working. I swear to God, baby classes just stop at like 1 p.m. Like they just don't bother putting them on in the afternoons. Like it's mornings only. It's very annoying. Like I want some afternoon activities, please. Baby pottying, especially when using cloth, and even more especially when they start eating solids. Is baby pottying like elimination communication? Is that it? I watched a whole video about that from Jessica Kelgren-Fozard. That was my first introduction to it. Is that the same thing? So it's essentially like when they're a baby, learning their cues of when they need to go, and so then taking them to the toilet or taking them to a baby potty and taking their nappy off and like waiting for them to go there instead of letting them go in the nappy. I don't know what I'm talking about. Baby pottying. Look it up because this person swears by it. And baby signing has been a great one for us. Yes, my friends got me like a baby signing book, and we got very excited for about a week trying to be like milk and nappy and all of that, and then just completely forgotten. But if it's something that you can commit to, I imagine it being very, very useful in terms of being able to communicate with your child earlier than when they'll be able to communicate with you with words. So there we have it. Those are some things that other parents swear by, and whether or not they're something that we've done and if they've worked for us. Is there anything that you swear by as a parent that I haven't mentioned? Do leave it in the comments. I'd be really interested to hear some of those things. I hope that you enjoyed this video and you found it interesting, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.